I had just won $25 million and was driving to my son's house to tell him the news. But as I stood at his door, I heard his voice say something that sent a chill down my spine. If we double her dose by December, she won't even remember who she is. I didn't go in. I drove home and began the most dangerous silent game of my life. If you're watching this, please subscribe and tell me where you're from, because what I'm about to tell you will break your heart. But it will also show you that you should never underestimate a betrayed mother. My name is Rosemary. I am 71 years old and thought I had raised the perfect son. I was wrong in the worst possible way. For 50 years, I was the perfect wife, the mother who sacrificed everything for her family. When my husband Marcus died 2 years ago, my world collapsed. He was my life partner, my love, my reason for being. But I had Andre, my only son. He's a respected doctor throughout Dayton, married to Selah, a sweet nurse who always treated me with kindness. Or so I thought. Andre had always been ambitious. Even as a child, he wanted to be the best, have the best, live like the wealthy. I sold the jewelry I inherited from my mother to finance his medical school. I worked as a cleaner so he could study without worry. For years, I got up at 4 a.m. to make him breakfast before he started his hospital shifts. I never complained, never asked for anything in return. He was my son, my pride, my future. After Marcus's death, Andre became more attentive to me. He visited often. He brought me medication for my blood pressure, vitamins for my bones. "Mom, you need to take care of yourself," he'd say with that smile I thought was genuine. "You're the only one I have left." How foolish I was. The medication he gave me made me confused, forgetful. I thought it was old age, the grief for Marcus. Andre reassured me. "It's normal, Mom. Depression causes these symptoms." Because he was a doctor, I trusted him blindly. Until that call came that changed everything. It was a Wednesday morning when the phone rang. A formal voice said she was from the insurance company. "Mrs. Rosemary, after 2 years of litigation, we've finally won the case. Your husband had a life insurance policy that the company unjustly denied us. You are entitled to $25 million. I couldn't believe it. Marcus had never told me about this policy. Apparently, he had taken it out in secret to protect me. But when he died, the insurance company refused to pay, citing false clauses. His lawyers had fought for 2 years until they won the $25 million. My Marcus, looking out for me from heaven. I was so excited I couldn't think straight. I had to tell someone, share this blessing. Andre was the only family I had left. He would understand what this meant. Security, peace, the ability to help others. I drove to his house with a heart full of joy. I was about to knock on the door when I heard voices inside. Andre was talking to someone. "The old lady's already starting to forget things," my son said with a voice I'd never heard from him before. Cold, calculating. "The medication is working perfectly." I froze. What medication was he talking about? "Are you sure she doesn't notice anything?" It was Selah's voice, my daughter-in-law, but she sounded nervous, worried. "Please, Selah, I'm a doctor. I know exactly what dose to give her, so it looks like natural dementia," Andre replied with an arrogance that made my blood run cold. "If we double the dose now, by December she won't even remember her own name, let alone where she keeps her documents or her money." The world stood still. My own son, the child I had raised with so much love, was betraying me, slowly poisoning me to rob me. "But Andre, it's your mother," Selah whispered. "She's a useless old hag who's lived long enough," was my son's reply, shattering my soul. "She has property, savings, Dad's pension. All of that will be mine when she dies or when I have her declared legally incapacitated. And now that we're speeding things up, it will happen much faster." My legs trembled. I had to lean against the wall to keep from falling. I didn't go into that house. I didn't confront my son. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I didn't hit him, as I really wanted to. Instead, with a calm I didn't know I possessed, I returned to my car. I drove home in silence with a crystal-clear decision in my mind. Andre wanted to play a dirty game. He didn't know who he was messing with. My son thought he was smart, that he had raised a stupid, easily manipulated old woman. He would soon find out who Rosemary really was. The silent game had just begun. That night, I didn't sleep a wink. I sat in the kitchen, looking at the pills André had given me the week before, the ones he said were vitamins to boost my memory. Liar. Everything had been a lie from the start. I took each bottle and examined it in the light. The names were complicated, medications I didn't recognize. But now I understood why I had felt so confused lately, why I forgot where I'd put my keys, why I sometimes couldn't remember if I had eaten or not. My own son was poisoning my mind, but André made a fatal mistake. He underestimated his mother. In the following days, I pretended nothing had happened. When André visited, I smiled as always. When he brought me the damned pills, I took them in front of him, but hid them under my tongue and spat them out later. "How do you feel, Mom?" he asked with his fake concern. "A little confused, son, but it calms me to know you're taking care of me," I replied, playing the role of the fragile old woman he wanted to see. "Don't worry, these medications will help you a lot," he said, stroking my hair with the same hands that were betraying me. Inside, my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. Each of his caresses was a stab. Each "I love you, Mom" was a poisonous lie that burned my soul. But I couldn't break down, not yet. I needed evidence. I needed to understand exactly what he was planning and why. So I started my own investigation. First, I took the pills to a pharmacy on the other side of Dayton, where no one knew me. I told the pharmacist, my doctor changed my medications, and I wanted to know what they were for. His face went pale when he saw them. "Mrs. Rosemary, these are very strong psychiatric medications, antipsychotics, sedatives, drugs used to treat severe schizophrenia and aggressive dementia," he explained, concerned. "Who prescribed these to you?" "My son is a doctor," I replied, feeling like someone had punched me in the stomach. "Mrs. Rosemary, with all due respect, this combination in a healthy person could cause severe confusion, memory loss, even permanent neurological damage. Are you sure you need to take these?" I left the pharmacy trembling with rage. André wasn't just robbing me, he was irreversibly destroying my brain. If I had taken these drugs for a few more months, I really would have lost my mind forever. That night, alone in my house, I allowed myself to cry for the first time since hearing that terrible conversation. I cried for the son I thought I had raised. I cried for 50 years of sacrifice he had trampled on. I cried for Marcus, who wasn't there to protect me. But when I stopped crying, I wiped away my tears and made a decision. André wanted a confused mother. I would give him exactly what he expected. The next day, the show of my life began. When André visited, I pretended to be more confused than ever. "André, is that you, my son?" I asked, feigning difficulty recognizing him. I saw his eyes fill with malicious joy. "Yes, Mom, it's me. How do you feel?" Confused, "I can't remember if I had breakfast, and I can't find my glasses," I replied, playing the role perfectly. "Don't worry, Mom, that's normal at your age," he said, but I could see the smug satisfaction on his face. The drugs were working faster than he expected. In the following weeks, I perfected my acting. I pretended to forget names, dates, conversations. I asked the same things multiple times. I acted like I was lost in my own house. André was euphoric. He even brought Sailor along to witness my mental decline. "Poor Rosemary," Sailor said with fake pity. "She's deteriorating so fast." "It's for the best," André replied, when he thought I couldn't hear him. "In a few months, we can have her declared legally incapacitated, and I'll have full control of her finances." But while they celebrated my supposed dementia, I worked in secret. With my mind perfectly clear, because I was no longer taking his poisons, I began to investigate André's finances. Something wasn't right. If he had a successful career as a doctor, why was he so desperate for my money? I hired Damien, a private investigator recommended by a neighbor. I explained my situation, and he agreed to discreetly investigate my son. "Mrs. Rosemary, this is more common than you think," Damien said sadly. "Children abusing their elderly parents for money. But we'll find out the whole truth." I also went to see Ivan, the lawyer who had handled Marcus's insurance. When I told him what was happening, he offered to help me for free. Your husband was my friend, he said. He told me a lot about you and how proud he was to have secured your future. I won't let your son take away what Marcus worked so hard for. While Andre thought he had me under control, I built my defense. I recorded conversations, documented every visit, every lie, every pill he gave me. But what Damien found out about my son left me speechless. Andre was not the successful doctor I thought he was. He was millions of dollars in debt. He had lost money in terrible investments. He had taken out loans with extremely high interest rates. And the worst part, he owed money to very dangerous people. Your son is desperate, Mrs. Rosemary, Damien explained, showing me photos and documents. He owes unscrupulous loan sharks more than $3 million. If he doesn't pay soon, he's in serious danger. That's when I understood everything. Andre wasn't just poisoning me out of greed, he was doing it to survive. But that didn't justify what he was doing to me. 2 months after hearing that terrible conversation, I had all the evidence I needed. Andre believed he was winning, that he would soon have access to my money and my property. He didn't know that his mother was 3 steps ahead the whole time. The evening before Damien was supposed to give me the final report on Andre's debts, I received a call that again sent a chill down my spine. It was Selah, and she was crying. Rosemary, I need to talk to you, my daughter-in-law sobbed. There are things you don't know about Andre.
Terrible things Ivy found out. What things, child?
I asked, feigning confusion, but listening very carefully.
I can't talk on the phone.
Can you come over tomorrow morning when Andre is at the hospital? But please, act normal. If he finds out I've told you anything, I don't know what he might do to us.
Us. I hung up the phone. My heart raced.
What else did she know that I didn't? What had Selah discovered that scared her? That night, for the first time in months, I was truly afraid. Because if my own son was capable of drugging me to rob me, what else was he capable of when cornered? The next morning, I arrived at Andre's house, pretending to be more confused than ever. I knocked on the door with trembling hands, not from acting, but from genuine fear of what Selah would reveal. My daughter-in-law opened the door, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked gaunt, terrified, as if she hadn't slept for days. Rosemary, thank you for coming, she whispered, looking around before letting me in. Andre went to the hospital and won't be back until tonight. We have to hurry. What's wrong, my child? You seem very upset, I said, continuing my role as the worried but confused grandmother. Selah led me to the kitchen and drew all the curtains. Then she sat across from me and burst into tears. Rosemary, please forgive me. Forgive me for what we've done, she sobbed. I never wanted to hurt you, but Andre threatened me. He said if I didn't help him give you those medications, he'd ruin my career. He'd say I stole drugs from the hospital. Although I already knew he was poisoning me, it hurt to hear it from her mouth, like someone plunging a knife into my chest. But I kept my composure. Medications? I don't understand, Selah, I feigned confusion. The pills Andre gives you are not vitamins, Rosemary. They are psychiatric drugs that impair your memory and judgment. He forced me to get them from the hospital where I work, she confessed through tears. Why would my son do that? I asked, feigning surprise. Because of the money. Rosemary, Andre is in very serious trouble. He owes dangerous people millions of dollars. He lost all our money in risky investments. He took out loans he can't repay. Selah trembled as she spoke. When he found out you were going to receive that life insurance, he went crazy. He said it was the solution to all his problems. What life insurance? I asked, pretending not to remember. Selah looked at me in horror. Rosemary, don't you remember? 3 months ago, you got a call about $25 million from Marcus's insurance. You came here super excited to tell us. I pretended to try to remember, putting my hand to my forehead. No, I don't remember. Everything's been so confusing lately. Oh God, the drugs have affected you too much already. Selah clapped her hand over her mouth in horror. Rosemary, Andre plans to have you declared legally incapacitated to get control of the money, but there's something worse, something I found out last night that terrifies me.
What is it?
I asked, and this time my fear was real. Sailor leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper.
I think Andre killed Marcus.
The world stopped. It felt like someone had hit me in the chest with a hammer.
What? What are you saying?
I stammered, and this time it wasn't acting. Last night, Andre got drunk and started talking. He said it was very easy, that no one suspected anything because he's a doctor, that he only needed one injection, and Marcus died so quickly he didn't even have time to call for help. Sailor trembled uncontrollably. When I asked him what he meant, he realized what he had said, and he got furious. He threatened me. He said if I ever repeated that, he'd kill me too. My world completely collapsed. Marcus hadn't died of a natural heart attack, as we all believed. My own son had murdered him.
But why?
Why did he do that to his own father? I asked, my voice broken. Because of the inheritance, Rosemary. Andre knew Marcus had taken out that life insurance, but he also knew he could never touch it as long as Marcus was alive. He needed Marcus dead so you would inherit, and then he needed you incapacitated to control everything. Sailor held my hands tightly. Rosemary, I'm sure he'll kill you too once he has the money. The room began to spin.
I couldn't breathe.
My son wasn't just a thief, he was a murderer. He had killed his own father and now planned to kill me too. We have to go to the police, I whispered.
We can't.
Sailor cried. I have no proof, and Andre is highly respected. He's a doctor. He has contacts everywhere.
No one will believe us.
Plus, he told me if I betray him, he'll say I was the one who killed Marcus, that I stole the drugs from the hospital. He can fake evidence, he can make sure they arrest me. We sat in silence, both trembling with fear and despair. There's something else, Sailor continued. Andre plans to increase your drug dose this week. He says by December, you'll be so bad you won't even be able to coherently speak. And after that, he'll say you had an accident.
What kind of accident?
I asked, even though I didn't want to hear the answer anymore. A fall down the stairs, or maybe you forgot to turn off the gas stove. Something that looks natural for a person with dementia. Sailor sobbed. Rosemary, he's already planned everything. By January you'll be dead, and as your only son, he'll inherit everything. I stood up from the chair with trembling legs. I had to get out of there. I needed air. I needed to think. Sailor, why are you telling me this? I asked her. Because I can't live with this guilt. Because you always treated me like a daughter, and I betrayed you. And why? She sobbed again. Because I'm pregnant, Rosemary. I just found out, and I can't bring a child into the world with a murderer as a father. A baby. Sailor was expecting Andre's baby. My grandchild, the son of a murderer. Does Andre know about the pregnancy? I asked. Oh no, and I won't tell him. I'm planning to leave him, but I need your help. If you die, no one will believe me. I won't have anyone to protect me. Sailor held my arm tight. Rosemary, I know you're sick. I know you're sometimes confused. But please try to remember what I'm telling you. Your life depends on it. I left the house feeling like a zombie. I drove home automatically. My mind was completely clouded by the revelation. Andre had murdered Marcus. My husband, the love of my life, had been murdered by our own son for money, and now he planned to kill me too. What hurt me most was thinking about Marcus's death, how he might have called out for me, wondered why his son was doing this to him. Had he suffered? Had he realized Andre was killing him? That night, alone in my house, I picked up the phone and called Damien, the private investigator. I had to tell him what Sailor had told me. I had to find evidence of Marcus's murder. But when I dialed his number, no one answered. I tried again an hour later. Nothing. The next day, I called his office, and they told me Damien had been in a car accident the night before. He was in the hospital, in a coma. An accident. What a coincidence. That's when I understood that Andre already knew I was investigating. He had discovered Damien and silenced him. How much time did I have before he found out I wasn't taking his drugs? How much time before he realized everything was just an act? That night, lying in my bed, I heard noises in the garden, slow footsteps around the house, as if someone was keeping watch. Andre was accelerating his plans. I had no more time for games. It was time to act before it was too late. But first, I had to make sure Sayla and her baby were safe, because if anything happened to me, they would be next. The next day, I pretended that the conversation with Sayla had never happened. When Andre visited, I acted more lost than ever. "Son, was the gentleman who was here last week your friend?" I asked, referring to Damien, the detective. I saw Andre immediately tense up. "Which gentleman, Mom?" "I can't remember his name. He came here asking strange things about Dad, about when he died. I told him I didn't remember anything because I've been forgetting everything lately." I lied, carefully observing his reaction. Andre relaxed his shoulders and smiled at me, but I could see relief in his eyes. "Don't worry, Mom. That was probably someone from the insurance company checking information. You know how bureaucrats are." "Yes, that must be it," I replied, pretending to drop the subject. "And where is Sayla? I haven't seen her in days." "She's working a lot at the hospital. Double shifts," Andre lied. "But don't worry, I'm here to take care of you." That night, after he left, I called Ivan, the lawyer. I had to accelerate my plans. "Mr. Ivan, I need to do something with the insurance money tomorrow," I said urgently. "Mrs. Rosemary, is everything all right? You sound very upset." "I can't explain it on the phone, but my life is in danger. I need to protect this money before it's too late." The next day, we met at his office. I told him everything. The drugs, Andre's plan, Sela's confession about Marcus's murder, Damien's accident. Ivan listened with growing horror. "Mrs. Rosemary, this is very serious. We need to go to the police immediately." "We can't. I don't have enough evidence, and Andre has too many contacts. I need more time to gather concrete proof, but first I need to secure the money," I explained. "I understand. What do you suggest?"
I want to transfer all the money into an irrevocable trust.
Something Andre can't touch, even if he has me declared incapacitated or I die. Ivan nodded. "We can do that, but we have to do it right, so it's completely legal and impossible to revoke." We worked all morning on the documents. We set up a trust where I would be the sole beneficiary as long as I lived. But if anything happened to me, the money would go to charities that help abused elderly people. Andre wouldn't see a cent. I also want that if anything happens to me, my death will be investigated. No matter how natural it seems, I told Ivan, and I want you to protect Sayla. She's pregnant and has information about my husband's murder.
I understand.
I will prepare all the additional documents. As I left the lawyer's office, I felt a little calmer. At least the money was protected, but I needed more evidence against Andre. That afternoon, I pretended to be very confused when Andre arrived with more vitamins. "Son, I don't remember if I've taken my medication today."
"Don't worry, Mom.
"Take an extra dose just to be sure," he replied with a smile that now sent shivers down my spine. I took the pills in front of him, but as always, I hid them under my tongue. Later, I spat them out and saved them. I already had a whole collection of evidence. "Mom, do you remember anything about money, insurance, or an inheritance?" he asked casually.
Money?
"No, what money?" I feigned complete confusion. "Nothing, Mom. Just asking." Andre seemed satisfied. In his mind, the drugs had already erased my memory of the life insurance. How wrong he was. That night, I decided to do something risky. I had to break into Andre's house and look for evidence of Marcus's murder. I knew he had an office in the basement where he kept all his medical documents. I waited until 2 a.m. and drove to his house. I had a spare key because years ago, when Andre and Sayla were on vacation, I had looked after the house. I entered quietly. The house was completely dark. André and Sailor were asleep on the second floor. I descended into the basement with a small flashlight. André's office was full of medical records, diplomas, medical books. I began to systematically search his drawers. In the third drawer, I found something that made my blood run cold. It was a small vial with a medical label, potassium chloride, for hospital use only. The vial was almost empty. Potassium chloride. I remembered seeing documentaries about murders where this substance was mentioned. In high doses, it causes immediate cardiac arrest and is difficult to detect in routine autopsies. This was what André had used to kill Marcus. I photographed the vial with my phone and continued searching. In another drawer, I found financial documents that confirmed what Damien had discovered. André owed private loan sharks more than $4 million. There were due dates marked in red, handwritten threats. But what shocked me most was finding a notebook where André had written down his plan step by step. Phase 1, gradually increase dose, completed. Phase 2, declare mental incapacity, in progress. Phase 3, gain legal control of money, December. Phase 4, household accident, January. And below, in different, newer handwriting, Damien eliminated. Problem solved. My hands trembled as I photographed each page. André had not only planned my death, he had documented everything like a medical project. On the last page, there was something that broke my heart. Sailor knows too much. After January, she must also disappear. I'll make it look like a suicide after childbirth. André planned to kill his own pregnant wife. I was in the process of photographing that page when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Someone was coming down to the basement. I quickly turned off the flashlight and hid behind the desk. My heart was beating so loudly I thought they would discover me by the sound. The basement light came on. Is anyone there? It was André's voice. I held my breath. From my hiding place, I could see his feet moving around the room, checking every corner. Sailor, did you go down to the basement? He called out to his wife. No, I'm in bed, she replied from upstairs. André continued searching for what felt like an eternity. He checked the drawers I had opened, noticing that some documents had been moved. Damn it, he muttered. Someone was here. He stood in the middle of the office, thinking. Then he took out his phone and made a call. It's me. I think someone broke into my house tonight. Yes, I'm sure. Check the old lady's house first thing in the morning. If she's not acting normal, you know what to do. My blood froze. André had found out I wasn't as confused as I pretended to be, and he had just ordered my death. I waited an hour after André went upstairs to emerge from my hiding place. I had to get out of there immediately, but I also had to warn Sailor. I crept quietly to the second floor and gently knocked on her bedroom door. Sailor, I whispered. She opened the door, surprised to see me. Rosemary, what are you doing here so late? We have to go now, I said urgently. André knows I'm not taking the drugs, and I found his plans in writing. He's going to kill both of us. Sailor turned pale. Are you sure? Absolutely. Andrés asleep. Yes, but just take the essentials. Your passport, some money, clothes. We're leaving now. Where to? To a safe place, but we have to get out of here before he wakes up. Sailor hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Give me a few minutes. As she quietly packed, I waited in the hallway, praying André wouldn't wake up. Every sound in the house sent a deadly fright through me. Finally, we left the house at dawn like two ghosts. But I knew this was just the beginning. André would realize we had fled, and when that happened, he would become more dangerous than ever. The war between my son and me had officially begun, and only one of us would survive. I drove all night with Sailor trembling in the passenger seat. Neither of us spoke for the first few hours. The silence was filled with terror and despair. Where are we going, Rosemary? She finally asked as the sun rose. To my sister Elsie's house. She lives 4 hours away in a small town where André would never think to look for us, I replied, keeping my eyes on the road. But what if he finds us? He won't find us, Because you and I are officially still at our houses. Andre will think you're working at the hospital, and I'll act as if nothing happened when he visits. Sailor looked at me confused. I don't understand. You'll hide with Elsie. I'll return to my house and continue feigning dementia. But now I have concrete evidence against him. It's time to put an end to this. When we arrived at Elsie's, my sister was stunned to see me so early and so upset. Rosemary, what's wrong? Why is Sailor crying? She asked. I explained everything to Elsie as we drank coffee in her kitchen. My sister listened with growing horror. That damned degenerate, she muttered when I finished. I always suspected something was wrong with Andre. Even as a child, he had something evil in his eyes. Elsie, I need you to look after Sailor. She's pregnant, and Andre plans to kill her too. I'm going back to confront him. No, you can't go back. It's too dangerous, Sailor cried, grabbing my arm. It's the only way. If we both disappear, he'll know we're together, and he'll find us. But if I go back and act normal, he'll think only you're gone, and we'll have more time to gather evidence. That afternoon, I returned to my house. When Andre came for his routine visit, I played my role.
André.
Oh, my son, I didn't even see you.
Wen did you arrive?
I asked, feigning surprise. I just got here, Mom. How do you feel? Confused, and I miss Sailor. Where's my daughter-in-law? I saw Andre tense up. When was the last time you saw Sailor, Mom? I don't remember anymore.
Yesterday, last week, it all blues. I lead perfectly.
Andre relaxed a little, but continued to watch me closely. Sailor has left, Mom. We broke up. She won't be coming anymore. Broke up? Why? I feigned surprise and sadness. Irreconcilable differences. But don't worry. I'll always take care of you. That night, after Andre left, I called Ivan, the lawyer. Mr. Ivan, I have the evidence we needed. Andre has potassium chloride in his house, the same he used to kill my husband. And he wrote down his entire plan in a notebook. Excellent, Mrs. Rosemary. That's concrete evidence. Where's Sailor? Safe, but we need to act fast because Andre is starting to suspect something. Tomorrow I will contact a homicide detective I know, someone I completely trust. We will present the entire case. But as I hung up, I again heard strange noises outside my house, slow, deliberate footsteps circling the property. I carefully looked out the window and saw a dark figure standing under the street lamp on the corner, watching my house. I couldn't make out the face, but the posture seemed familiar. It was Andre. He was watching me. The next day, he arrived earlier than ever with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Good morning, Mom. I brought you breakfast, he said, carrying a bag from the bakery. How kind, my son. I'm very hungry. But as Andre took out the pastries, I noticed something strange. They had a very subtle, almost imperceptible, chemical smell. Eat, Mom, it's delicious, he urged, pushing the plate towards me. First, I'll get coffee, I said, standing up. In the kitchen, while pretending to prepare coffee, I secretly broke off a piece of pastry and put it in a small plastic bag. If there were drugs in it, I needed evidence. When I returned, Andre was checking my mail. What are you doing, my son? Just sorting your papers, Mom. I see you have a letter from a lawyer. Do you remember talking to a lawyer lately? My blood froze, but I kept my composure. Lawyer? I don't remember any lawyer. Everything confuses me so much. Andre read the letter carefully. It was an appointment confirmation for next week with Ivan. It says here you have an appointment tomorrow for trust matters. What trust, Mom? I don't know what you're talking about, my son. Everything confuses me so much, I replied, but I could see that Andre no longer fully believed me. All right, Mom. I'll accompany you to this appointment to make sure no one is cheating you. Yes, my son, that would be good. But as Andre left, I immediately called Ivan. Andre knows about the lawyer. He's coming with me to the appointment tomorrow, I said desperately. Don't worry, Mrs. Rosemary. I have a plan. Come to the appointment as usual. But bring Andre with you, we'll set a trap. That night, I could barely sleep. I knew that the next day would decide everything. Either André would fall into the trap, or I would die. At 9 a.m., André came to accompany me to the lawyer's office. He was impeccably dressed and wore his best smile, fitting for a respected doctor. Ready, Mom? Let's see what this lawyer wants. On the way, André kept asking me subtle questions about what I remembered regarding the life insurance, the money, and the conversations with Ivan. I really don't remember much, my son. That's why it's good that you're accompanying me. I lied to him. When we arrived at the office, Ivan greeted us with perfect professionalism. Good morning, Mrs. Rosemary. And you must be André, her son. I've heard a lot about you.
Likeveis. Andre replied suspiciously.
I want to understand exactly what's going on with my mother's finances. Of course, please have a seat. Ivan began to explain the life insurance and the trust fund, carefully observing André's reactions. So, is this money completely protected? André asked tensely. That's right. Even if Mrs. Rosemary were declared legally incapacitated, no one else could access these funds. I saw André's face slowly change. The mask of the concerned son began to fall. This is ridiculous. If my mother can't manage her own finances, I, as her only son, should have legal access. I understand your concern, but these were your mother's specific instructions when she was of sound mind. André stood up abruptly. When was that? My mother has been very confused lately. Oh, that was just 3 days ago, Ivan replied casually.
Andre froze.
If I had given legal instructions 3 days ago, it meant I wasn't as crazy as he thought. That's impossible. My mother cannot make complex decisions in her current state. Her current state? Ivan asked with feigned innocence. My mother suffers from advanced dementia. She's taking strong psychiatric medications. How interesting. Could you tell me what those medications are? Ivan asked. André realized he had said too much. As a doctor, he knew he couldn't administer such medications without official psychiatric oversight. Well, as her family doctor, I understand. And do you have the official diagnoses and corresponding prescriptions for them? Silence filled the room. André knew he was walking into a trap, but it was already too late. I think it's time to go, Mom, André said, standing up. But Ivan pressed a button under his desk, and seconds later, 2 detectives entered the office. André Smith, one of the officers announced. I replaced the German Schwartz with an English Smith, for André to have a surname. You are under arrest on suspicion of first-degree murder and attempted murder. André turned pale. What are you talking about? This is ridiculous. We have evidence that you murdered Marcus Smith with potassium chloride and defrauded your mother to kill her and steal her inheritance. Mom. André screamed desperately at me. Tell them I took care of you. Tell them you're sick. I slowly stood up from my chair and looked him directly in the eyes. Oh, André, I said with a clarity that stunned him. Your biggest mistake was underestimating your mother. The total shock on his face was the most satisfying thing I had ever seen in my life. The look on André's face when he realized I had been deceiving him for months was something I will never forget. His eyes filled with a mix of absolute terror, rage, and despair. How is this possible? He stammered as the detectives handcuffed him. But you took the medications. I saw you take them. I hid them under my tongue, my son, just like you used to do as a child when you didn't want to take your fever medicine, I replied with a calm that surprised even myself. André began to struggle with the detectives. This is a trap. My mother is crazy. She has dementia. Ask her what she had for breakfast today. She won't remember. I had 2 scrambled eggs, toast with strawberry jam, and black coffee, I answered perfectly. I also ate half of the poison pastry you brought me this morning, André, which is now being analyzed in the lab. His face completely collapsed. No, that can't be. One of the detectives, an older man I'll call Detective Miller, approached me. Mrs. Rosemary, I must admit your acting performance these past few months was extraordinary, but also extremely dangerous. Andre could have killed you at any moment. I know, detective, but I needed concrete evidence. I wouldn't let my son get away with my husband's murder. Speaking of which, we'll have Marcus's body exhumed for a full autopsy. If Andre poisoned him with potassium chloride, we'll find it. 2 days later, the autopsy results confirmed my worst fears. Marcus had died from a massive injection of potassium chloride. His death had not been natural. My son had murdered him in cold blood, but the surprises didn't stop there. When they thoroughly searched Andre's house, they found something that left me speechless. Documents showing he had planned this long before Marcus's death. Andre had researched his father's life insurance years ago. He had precisely calculated how much money I would receive. He had studied inheritance laws. He had planned every step of the murder and the theft. They also found evidence that Andre had killed Damien, the private investigator. It hadn't been an accident. Andre had drugged him and deliberately caused the crash. My son was not just a murderer, he was a serial killer. As they gave me this information, I sat on a chair at the precinct and cried like I had never cried in my life. Not just for Marcus, not just for Damien, but for the son I thought I had raised, who had turned out to be a monster. Mrs. Rosemary, Detective Miller said gently. Is there anything else you need to know? What else? I asked weakly, bracing for more surprises. We've been investigating other similar cases in Dayton. Elderly people under Andre's medical care who died under suspicious circumstances. We believe there might be more victims. The world collapsed on me again. More victims. 3 more elderly people in the last 2 years. All Andre's patients. All with significant inheritances. All died of sudden cardiac arrest. Andre hadn't just killed Marcus and Damien, he had murdered his own elderly patients to rob them. We'll need your help to review all these cases. Mrs. Rosemary, your testimony will be crucial to bring justice to all victims. I left the police station feeling like I had aged 10 years in one day. But I also felt strangely liberated. The truth had come to light. Marcus would get justice. That afternoon, I drove to Elsie's house to tell Sailor the news. When I told her everything that had happened, she completely broke down. Rosemary, how am I going to raise this baby knowing his father is a serial killer? She sobbed. Sailor, this baby is not to blame for Andre's crimes, and neither are you. This child will grow up knowing that his mother had the courage to do the right thing, to help his father before he killed more people. But what about me? I have no money, I have no job, I have nothing. You have me, I said, taking her hands. And you have $25 million. What do you mean? Sailor asked. You were the only one who had the courage to warn me about Andre's plans.
Vitut you, ID be dead now.
The baby you're carrying is my grandchild. The only grandchild I'll have. I'll make sure both you and he have everything you need.
Rosemary, I can take your money. It's not my money, my child. It's Marcus' money.
And he would have wanted his grandchild to have the best possible life, no matter the circumstances. The following weeks were a whirlwind of court proceedings. Andre was officially charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, Marcus, Damien, and 3 elderly patients. He was also charged with attempted murder against me, fraud, theft, and a dozen other crimes. Throughout the trial, Andre claimed he was the victim, that I had manipulated him, that he never intended to hurt anyone. But the evidence was overwhelming. The photos of the potassium chloride, his notebook with the written plans, the drugs he had given me, the financial documents showing his debts, everything built a perfect case. On the day of the trial, when I had to testify, Andre looked at me with such pure hatred that I shivered. Mrs. Smith, the prosecutor, asked me, "Can you tell us why you chose to feign dementia instead of going directly to the police?" "Because I knew my son," I replied. "I knew he was clever, manipulative, and respected in the community. If I had gone to the police and said my son, a doctor, was drugging me to rob me, they probably would have thought I really had dementia. I needed solid, irrefutable evidence." "And how did you feel when you found out your son had murdered your husband?" I paused for a moment, feeling the weight of all eyes in the courtroom. It felt like someone had ripped my heart out twice. Once because I lost Marcus, and again because I realized the son I had raised with so much love was capable of killing his own father for money. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours, guilty on all counts. André was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. As the verdict was read, André screamed one last time, "Mom, this is your fault. You made me this way." But this time, his words didn't hurt me, because I finally understood that the André I had raised, the sweet boy who sat on my lap to hear stories, had died a long time ago. The man in that courtroom was a stranger who happened to have his face. The months after the trial were the strangest of my life. On one hand, I felt an enormous relief that the whole nightmare was over. On the other hand, I had to deal with the most complex grief imaginable. I mourned the death of a son who was still alive but had become a monster. Sayla moved in with me after the trial. Her pregnancy progressed well, but emotionally she was devastated. Sometimes I heard her crying in her room at night, processing the fact that her baby's father was a multiple murderer. "Rosemary, how am I going to explain to my son who his father was?" she asked me one afternoon as we drank tea in the garden. "You will tell him the truth, adjusted for his age," I replied. "That his father was very sick in his mind, that he made terrible choices, but that doesn't define who he is." "And what if he inherited something from André? What if he has violent tendencies?" "Sayla, this child will grow up surrounded by love, with solid values, knowing the difference between good and evil. He will do everything that is the opposite of his father." But there was not only sadness and reflection, something powerful was also growing within me, a new purpose. During the trial, I had met the families of André's other victims. Elderly people who had trusted him as a doctor, who had seen him as a son, and who had died alone and betrayed. Mrs. Diana, whose husband had been murdered by André, said something that left an indelible mark on me. "Rosemary, you were lucky to find out the truth in time. My Hugo died believing André was helping him. He never knew he was killing him." That night, after meeting Diana, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how many other elderly people like us were abused, manipulated, and robbed by their own children or caregivers. The next day, I called Ivan, the lawyer. "Ivan, I want to do something with the insurance money. Something that honors Marcus's memory and helps other elderly people like me." "What are you thinking of, Mrs. Rosemary?" "I want to create a protection center for elderly victims of family abuse. A place where they can get legal, medical, and psychological help, where they don't feel alone when their own children betray them." Ivan was silent for a moment. "Mrs. Rosemary, that's an extraordinary idea. Are you sure you want to invest so much money in it?" "Ivan, this money came from my husband's life. He would have wanted it to be used to protect others, not for me to buy luxuries I don't need." We immediately began working on the plans for the center. It would be called the Marcus Center for Elder Protection, in honor of my husband. But while we were planning the center, I received an unexpected visit that changed my perspective on everything. It was a man in his 50s, well-dressed, who introduced himself as Diego. "Mrs. Rosemary, I'm an investigative journalist. I've been following your son's case, and there's something you need to know." "What is it?" "André didn't work alone. He had accomplices." My blood froze. "What do you mean?" "Your son was part of a larger network. There are other doctors, nurses, social workers who have been exploiting vulnerable elderly people throughout the region. André was just one piece of the puzzle." Diego showed me documents, photos, evidence he had collected for months. At least 10 medical professionals were involved in an organized elder abuse network. "Mrs. Rosemary, your case was the one that brought everything down. When André was arrested, we started putting the pieces together. There are dozens more victims." "Does the police know about this?" "They're starting to investigate, but they'll need help. They'll need someone like you, who understands how abuse works from the inside, to help other victims speak out." That night, I couldn't sleep again, but this time not from sadness, but from a new energy flowing through my veins. André hadn't just been an evil son, he had been part of something much bigger and sinister. And if I had managed to defeat him, perhaps I could help defeat the entire network. The next day, I called Detective Miller. Detective, I just learned something very important about Andre's case. When I told him everything Diego had shown me, Miller was silent for a long time. Mrs. Rosemary, that explains a lot. 4 years, we had individual cases that we couldn't link together. Would you be willing to help us as a consultant? What would I have to do? Talk to other victims. Help them recognize the signs of abuse, give them the courage to report it. Your story will give them hope that these criminals can be defeated. I didn't hesitate for a moment. Yes, detective, I will do it. The next few months were intense. I worked with the police, visiting dozens of elderly people who had been victims of the network. Some were so traumatized they could barely speak. Others were so confused by the drugs they had been given that they didn't know what was real. But little by little, with patience and understanding, we got them to talk. The most shocking story was that of Frank, a 90-year-old man who had been a victim of a nurse named Brenda who worked with Andre. Mrs. Rosemary, Frank told me through tears, Brenda took care of me after my wife died. I trusted her like a daughter, but she stole all my retirement savings, made me sign papers I didn't understand. And when I became suspicious, she started giving me medication that made me sleep all day. How did you get out of that situation, Frank? My neighbor got worried when she didn't see me for days. She called the police, and when they arrived, they found me almost unconscious. Brenda had fled with all my money. Cases like Frank's gave me even more determination. Every victim we helped speak out was a victory against the system that had allowed Andre and his accomplices to operate for years. But the biggest victory came 6 months later when Sayla gave birth to her child. It was a beautiful, perfect baby with the green eyes of Marcus, my husband. Sayla named him Marcus, in honor of his grandfather. When I held my grandson for the first time, I felt a peace I hadn't experienced in years. This child represented hope, the future, the possibility that from all the darkness we had experienced, something good could emerge. "Hello, Marcus," I whispered to him, "your grandfather would be so proud to meet you." Sayla recovered quickly from childbirth, both physically and emotionally. Having her baby gave her new strength. "Rosemary, I want to help at the center," she said one afternoon while nursing Marcus. "I want no other woman to go through what we went through." "Are you sure, my child? You have a baby to care for." Precisely because of that, I want Marcus to grow up in a world where elderly people are protected, where children cannot exploit their parents. A year after the trial, the Marcus Center opened its doors. It was a beautiful building with offices for lawyers, social workers, psychologists, and honest doctors dedicated to protecting the elderly. On opening day, dozens of people came. Victims we had helped, families who had found justice, professionals who wanted to join our cause. But the person who touched me most was Diana, the elderly woman whose husband had been murdered by Andre. "Rosemary," she told me through tears, "my Hugo would be so proud of what you've achieved. You've turned our pain into something wonderful." During the ceremony, I held my grandson Marcus in my arms as I gave a speech about the center's purpose. "This place exists because I chose not to be a silent victim," I told everyone present. "It exists because I believed that a 71-year-old woman could defeat a murderer. And it exists because you, every single one of you, decided you deserved justice and respect." That night, after everyone had left, I stayed alone in the center with a photo of Marcus that we had placed in the main hall. "We did it, my darling," I whispered to his picture. "Andre can't hurt anyone anymore, and we will protect all the elderly people we can." For the first time in 2 years, I felt that Marcus truly rested in peace. 2 years after the center's opening, our organization had grown beyond anything I had ever imagined. We had helped more than 300 elderly victims of abuse. We had achieved the arrest of 23 criminals from Andre's network and recovered more than $15 million for the victims. But the greatest satisfaction came when I received an unexpected call from Detective Miller. "Mrs. Rosemary, I have extraordinary news."
Do you remember Damian, the private investigator Andre killed?
"Yes, the poor man died because he helped me." Well, it turns out Damien was smarter than we thought. Before he died, he had sent copies of all his investigations into Andre to his partner in another state. His partner kept the information for years, waiting for the right moment to use it. What kind of information? Evidence linking André to at least 15 more murders of elderly people in other states. Mrs. Rosemary, your son was not just part of a local network, he was part of a national operation. The news left me speechless. 15 more elderly people had died because of my son's greed. Families had lost their loved ones without ever knowing the truth. Detective, what can we do with this information? The FBI will reopen all these cases and will need your help again. Your testimony about how André operated will be crucial to understanding how the entire national network functioned. I immediately agreed to help. I couldn't let those deaths go unpunished, no matter how much pain it caused me to relive everything. But before I started working with the FBI, there was something personal I had to resolve. In the 2 years since the trial, André had sent me more than 50 letters from prison. I had thrown them all away unread, except for the last one, which had arrived the previous week. This letter was different. On the envelope, he had written in shaky handwriting, "Mom, please, just this once, it's important." Against my better judgment, I opened the letter. "Mom, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I don't even deserve for you to read these words. But there's something you need to know before the federal agents come for me. It didn't start as a plan to kill you. In the beginning, when Dad died, I really just wanted to help you with your finances. But I had so much debt, I was so desperate. The first time I gave an elderly patient extra medication was by accident. Do you remember Mr. Miller? He was very sick and in a lot of pain. I gave him a higher dose of morphine to relieve his pain, and he died that night. His family thanked me, saying his last moments had been peaceful. That's when I realized how easy it was, and how much money these elderly people had. Mom, I'm not writing this to apologize. There's no excuse for what I've done. I'm writing because I want you to know that a part of me, the part you raised, fought against it for a long time. But greed won, desperation won, and it became easier and easier to justify each death. When I saw you playing confused, when I thought you were really losing your memory, I felt relief. I thought it would be easier if you didn't notice what was happening. I never thought you were pretending. I never thought that my mother, whom I had underestimated my whole life, would be the one to defeat me. I'm proud of you, Mom. I know it's strange to say that from prison, after everything I've done, but I'm proud that you didn't give up. I'm proud that you fought, and I'm proud that you're using Dad's money to protect other elderly people. That's what he would have wanted. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. I'm just asking you to know that the good part of me, the part you raised with so much love, never completely died. It was just smothered by the evil part. Take care of my son. Make sure he never knows what a monster I was. Let him believe his father was a good man. Died with love and eternal regret, André." After reading that letter, I cried for hours. Not for André the murderer, but for the boy he had been, for the son he could have been if he had chosen differently. But it also gave me a strange clarity. André had chosen the path of evil out of greed and cowardice. I had chosen the path of justice out of love and courage. These were the differences that truly defined who we were. A week later, the FBI agents arrived. They were 2 professional women, Agent Elsie and Agent Lana, who treated me with a respect and kindness that reminded me why I had chosen to fight. "Mrs. Rosemary, your case has inspired victims of abuse across the country," Agent Elsie told me. "We've received hundreds of calls from elderly people who recognized similar patterns in their own experiences after your story was published in the news." "I'm glad something good came out of all this pain," I replied. "More than something good," Agent Lana added.
Juve sparkt a Revolution.
"Laws protecting the elderly are changing across the country thanks to your case. Hospitals are implementing new safety protocols. Families are more attentive to the signs of abuse." I worked with the FBI for 6 more months, helping to identify victims, behavioral patterns, and methods used by the criminal network. The result was spectacular. They arrested more than 100 people involved in the systematic abuse of the elderly in 15 different states. But the greatest reward came when one of the elderly ladies we had helped them identify, an 88-year-old woman named Nora, sent me a letter. Dear Rosemary, thanks to your courage in reporting your own son, my granddaughter can no longer steal my pension or give me medication that made me sleep all day. I thought I was going crazy, that it was normal to feel so confused at my age. But when I saw your story on the news, I recognized what was happening to me. Now my granddaughter is in prison. I have my money back, and for the first time in years, I feel like myself again. You have no idea how many grandmas like me you're saving with your work. With infinite gratitude, Nora. In my desk at the center, I have a drawer full of such letters. Each one represents a life saved, a family protected, justice achieved. But I also have something special, photos of my grandson Marcus as he grows up. At 2 years old, Marcus was already running all over the center, the darling of all the staff and visitors. Sailor had decided to study social work, inspired by our work to protect the elderly. Rosemary, she said to me one afternoon while Marcus played in my office. Sometimes I wonder if all this would have happened if I had been braver from the beginning, if I had said no to Andre the first time he asked me to get those drugs. My child, you mustn't torment yourself with such thoughts. What's important is that you found the courage when it was most needed.
Without your warning, I'd be dead now.
Do you think Marcus will ask us about his father one day? I'm sure he will, yes. And when he does, we'll tell him the truth in a way he can understand. That his father was very sick mentally, that he made terrible choices, but that he has none of that darkness within him. How can you be so sure? I looked at Marcus, who was building a tower of blocks, completely focused on his task, with his tongue sticking out, just like his grandfather when he was concentrating. Because he has Marcus's blood, my husband's, in him. Your goodness, Sailor. And he will grow up surrounded by true love, seeing how we use our pain to protect others. This child will do all the good things Andre could have been. That night, after putting Marcus to bed, I sat in the garden and looked at the stars. 3 years had passed since that terrible night when I heard Andre plan my murder. 3 years in which I had transformed from a silent victim into the voice of hundreds of abused elderly people. 3 years in which I had turned the greatest betrayal of my life into the most important purpose of my existence. And now, I could finally say that Marcus's death had justice, that Andre had paid for all his crimes, and that my grandson would grow up in a somewhat safer world thanks to our struggle. 5 years after that terrible night when I heard Andre plan my death, I wake up every morning with a clear purpose, to protect the defenseless and to honor Marcus. The Marcus Center has become a national model for elder protection. We have opened branches in 2 states, trained more than 1,000 professionals, and achieved legislative changes that protect millions of elderly people across the country. But this morning is special. Today my grandson Marcus turns 5 years old, and for the first time, he asked me the question Sailor and I knew would come. Grandma Rosemary, why don't I have a daddy like the other kids? We're sitting in my garden, the same place where I drank tea with his grandfather so many years ago. Marcus has the exact same green eyes as my husband and the same insatiable curiosity. You know what, Marcus? You do have a daddy, he just can't be with us right now. Why can't he be here? I take a deep breath. We've rehearsed this moment for years, but it's never easy. Your daddy became very sick in his mind, my love. When people get that sick, they sometimes make very bad choices that hurt others. And when that happens, they have to go to a special place where doctors help them, but they can't leave. Marcus nods seriously. At 5 years old, he understands complex concepts better than many adults. But he loves me, doesn't he, in his healthy heart? Yes, he loves you, Marcus, but the sick part of his mind was stronger. That's why Mommy and I are taking care of you, to make sure you grow up healthy and good. Can I get sick like him? No, my love. You have your mommy's good heart and your grandfather Marcus's wisdom. And you have something your daddy never had, a family that teaches you the difference between good and evil every day. Marcus smiles and snuggles into me. Grandma, can you tell me the story of Grandpa Marcus again? For the next hour, I tell him the same stories I've repeated 1,000 times. How his grandfather was gentle but strong, how he worked hard to care for his family, how he loved me for 50 years with unwavering devotion. I don't tell him how he died. That can wait many years. That afternoon, While Marcus plays at the center with the staff who adore him, I receive a surprising call. Mrs. Rosemary, this is the prison warden. Andre Smith wants to see you. 5 years have passed since I last saw my son. 5 years since the detectives handcuffed him in the lawyer's office. Did he say why he wants to see me? He says he's dying, Mrs. Rosemary. Terminal pancreatic cancer. The doctors give him 2 months at most. I remain silent for a long moment. A part of me, the part that was a mother for 40 years, feels pain at the news that my son is dying. But another part, the part that knows the truth about what he did, feels a strange justice.
Mrs. Rosemary, are you still there? Yes, excuse me.
When could I visit him?
Tomorrow, if you wish.
But I must warn you now that he has physically deteriorated greatly. That night, I tell Sailor about the call. Are you going to go? She asks, preparing dinner. I don't know. Part of me wants to see him one last time, but another part thinks I've already given Andre too much of my life. Rosemary, you've done everything a mother could do. If you want to see him, do it for yourself, not for him. But if you decide not to go, that's fine too. That night, I can't sleep. I keep thinking about the boy Andre was, the man he could have been, the monster he became. Finally, at 3 a.m., I make a decision. The next day, I drive to the state prison. It's a cold, gray place full of hopelessness, exactly where Andre belongs. When they take me to the visiting room, I barely recognize the man sitting on the other side of the glass. Andre has lost at least 60 pounds. His skin has an unhealthy yellowish color, and his eyes are sunken deep in their sockets. But when he sees me, he smiles. And for a terrible second, I see the boy who used to run to me screaming "Mommy" when I came home from work. Thank you for coming, Andre said with a hoarse, unrecognizable voice. What do you want, Andre? To see you one last time, to tell you something I never told you. I'm proud of you. That was not what I expected. What? In these 5 years in prison, I've seen the news about the center, about everything you've achieved. Mom, you've saved hundreds of lives. You've turned the worst moment of your life into something wonderful. Andre, no. Let me finish. I know I shouldn't say this, but I need you to know that the good part of me, the part you raised, is proud that my mother is stronger than I am. He's proud that you refused to be a victim. Tears begin to run down my face, unstoppable. Have you seen my grandson? I ask. Only in photos Sailor sometimes sends me. He's beautiful. He has Dad's eyes. His name is Marcus. Andre smiles sadly. I'm glad he bears his name. He was a much better man than I. Andre, why? Why did you kill your father? Why did you plan to kill me? Because I was a coward, Mom. Because I thought money was more important than family. Because I became something I no longer recognized myself. We were silent for several minutes. Mom, there's something else I need to tell you. Something that never came up in the trial. What is it? The night Dad died, he knew what I was going to do. When I gave him the injection, he looked at me and said, Andre, protect your mother. Love her like I loved her. His last words were about you. The pain I feel is so strong I can't breathe. He died worrying about me, and I betrayed him in the worst possible way. Mom, if there's a hell, I'm going there. But before I go, I want you to know that Dad loved you until his last breath. I leave the prison crying like I haven't cried since Marcus's funeral. But they aren't just tears of sadness, they are also tears of relief, of closure, of final peace. 2 months later, Andre dies in the prison infirmary. I don't go to his funeral. Instead, that day I organize a special ceremony at the center to honor all the victims of his criminal network. Marcus, my grandson, is now 6 years old and helps me plant flowers in the memorial garden we created for the victims. He doesn't know that one of the plaques bears the name of his grandfather, who was murdered by his own father. Grandma, these flowers will grow big, he asks as he plants a red rose. Yes, Marcus. They will grow beautiful and strong, like the people we remember here, and they will last forever, forever, my love. That night, after putting Marcus to bed, I sit at my desk to write my memoirs. The country's largest publisher wants to publish my story, and all royalties will go to the center. As I write, I reflect on everything I've learned in these terrible but life-changing years. I've learned that true love sometimes means saying no, that being a mother doesn't mean protecting a son from the consequences of his evil deeds. I've learned that true strength lies in defending what's right, even if it breaks your heart. I've learned that old age doesn't mean weakness, that 71 years can be the beginning of the most important adventure of your life. I've learned that the strongest revenge is not to hurt those who hurt you, but to use that pain to protect others. And I've learned that Marcus, my husband, still looks after me from wherever he is. His love gave me the strength to fight. His money gave me the tools to win, and his memory gives me the purpose to continue. I finish writing and look at the photo of Marcus on my desk. He's smiling in it with the same green eyes our grandson now has. "We did it, my darling," I whisper. "Andre can't hurt anyone anymore." The center protects hundreds of elderly people. Sailor is strong and independent, and Marcus will grow up knowing he comes from a family that chose good over evil. For the first time in 6 years, I feel that Marcus truly rests in peace, and for the first time in my life, so do I. Tomorrow will begin another workday at the center. Another day to protect the defenseless. Another day to transform pain into purpose. Because that's what survivors do. We don't just survive, we transform. And you who have listened to me this far, remember this: you are never too old to fight for justice. You are never too weak to defeat evil. And never let anyone make you believe you don't deserve respect and dignity. Tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced such injustice? Do you know an elderly person who needs protection? Because this story doesn't end with me.